April Pettyjohn, and this is Follow the Leader Homeschool Education. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 10 of Follow the Leader Homeschool Education. Episode 10 feels like a milestone for some reason. I mean, I know it's not a huge deal, but it feels like, hey, we've been doing this for a while. It's starting to feel good. We're in a rhythm. This is my friend Shannon, and I am so excited to have you here today. Shannon is an attorney, and she is one of my greatest friends. So I don't really know her in a legal capacity very well. I guess that's good.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Yes.
I know her through church, through homeschooling. We're in the same co-op together. But actually, Shannon is best known to me as my stage host in Zuper Church. So a lady of many talents. She is
Thank you.
One of the most theatrically gifted.
Maybe it's the legal, because I can just turn it on and off, I guess.
Could be it. Her and her husband volunteer up in the preschool department at church, and he does the puppeteering.
So I guess would be no, but yes, because I'm one of those people that I don't have like a life verse. I have verses that I feel like the Lord drops into my heart for seasons.
Yeah.
And so at the end of last year's school year, or this past school year, which would have been, sometime around May, I was really reading through and kind of focusing on Proverbs. Which, every time I do that, I look back and I'm like, why am I not reading a Proverbs every day? Yeah. But the Lord just really put on my heart for our family, not for the class as a whole, Proverbs 16:9. We can make our plans, but the Lord determines our steps, which I think, honestly, if I sat and thought about it, it could be kind of like a homeschool journey verse, because every year, every season, every week, seems to feel different. We might have plans, or we think it's going to go or look one way. But when we commit it to the Lord, He's in control and hold things loosely. So I would say for this upcoming season, that's kind of the verse that's been on my heart for our family.
Yeah, so. I love that. I'm similar. I think depending on where we are at in life, there are different things that the Lord is speaking specifically to us. Yeah. And I actually did probably a week ago, I did a reel on something kind of similar to that, just talking about is your day interruptible? Are you able to pause, to let God interrupt what you're doing, what you're so focused on, to interrupt with what His actual plan is for the day? Are you so set on checking off the boxes? Which, don't get me wrong, I love a checklist.
I do too. I love being able to mark off things
I do too.
I had in my mind would get done that day, and when it's done, it just feels good.
I had a really productive day at work the other day because the children were not there. A lot of times I take them. This day I did not have to, and I felt like I got so much done.
So much done.
And then at the end of a few hours, I got a sticky note out, and I wrote down all the things I had done. And then I marked them off.
It felt so good, didn't it?
It felt so good.
Yeah. But I feel like it's not just homeschooling. That's in parenting.
Yes.
You have this idea of how a day is going to look, or a week, or a vacation. And also in marriage too. I remember I was listening to this message years ago about expectations, and how if you express your expectations or discuss those, whether it's with your spouse or your kids, that makes it so much easier, so there's no confusion. Yeah. So I know that's a sidetrack, but
it's so good.
I love that word, expectations. And so now I'll say it with the boys, what are your expectations for this?
I like that.
So I can have in my mind what they're thinking. I understand what they're thinking. So if things go off the rails, or we don't accomplish everything, we've kind of thought through what we're expecting for the day, and even expressed it back. So I hear you saying, you want to do this, but we may not be able to get to that.
So well, and that gives some insight too as to why if something that seems small to you, if it doesn't happen, why they're at a level 10.
Yes.
Because that was really important to them.
Yeah. And if you don't know, it's one of those things where if you don't know the expectations, it makes it hard to meet them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So. Anyways, that was a sidetrack.
No,
Sorry about that.
Such a good sidetrack. I feel like every episode is just a lot of sidetracks that somehow come together at the end, which is great.
Love it.
So I do want our listeners, viewers, to get to know you a little bit better, though. So let's talk about your upbringing and Marcus's as well. Like, were you guys homeschool kids? Was this on your radar?
No, so my husband, Marcus, he went to public school his entire education, and I went to private school. We knew each other from church. So we're church kids that got together and, ended up being married. We've known each other since we were we say second grade. So we have a long history. That. Yes.
Did you know that less than 2% of marriages are high school sweethearts?
Really?
So you guys would fall into the 0.0 percentage.
Yeah,
probably.
because it's like back to elementary school.
That's amazing. Yes.
So his knowledge base was public school. Mine was private school, and it was our church's school, the church we grew up in. So it was a private Christian education. And I would say we were those people who thought homeschool kids were weird. And, when we got married, it wasn't like we were discussing our children's education, but I know we both had that kind of idea behind it because it was different then.
Absolutely.
It's come so far.
Even within just the last few years, I feel like there has been a very recent shift in the acceptance of homeschoolers.
Yeah.
And honestly, they are a little weird.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah. Well, I think they're weird in the best way in that they have different life experiences and they're not afraid to be independent and think independent because it's different. But I also think it's more accepted and it's more common. So it's not as hard on them.
For sure.
But so back to Marcus and I, that homeschool was not a part of our journey individually and had no background. No, it was not on our radar at all for our family. So, but we have 2 children. Our oldest, Roby, he's 13, and our youngest, Jojo, he's 8. I was about to say all Jojo is known as homeschool, but I'll correct that. Roby did private Christian school up until 3rd grade. And, it was a fine experience, but he just had some things that came up during his last year there that we could see that where he was at was not good for him. Yeah. It was not healthy for him. And again, homeschool was not on our radar at the time, but we had to pull him out halfway through the 2nd semester just because of some things that were going on. And a friend of mine from church said, I'm not sure if you're interested, but I think this might be a fit. Yeah. Would you come look at it? And it's Classical Conversations. And so I went to observe one day on the parent, open house. Yes. Yeah. And I went to the open house and I sat through the first opening ceremony part, the chapel, I call it. And I was there 10, 15 minutes and I was like, this is what we're doing. And I texted Marcus. And I just said that I really feel like this is what we need to do. Yeah. And that the sudden having to pull him out was from the Lord, because otherwise we would have never done homeschool. Yes. If things were just fine, we wouldn't have known, and we would not have known that this was going to be such a gift to our family.
We were on the same track. I was teaching in the school. Yeah. Ella, up until 5th grade, everything was really great. It was a really good experience, and I'm glad that was part of our story. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and I look at it. What I learned from that, I guess I would say, is that every child is different. Yes. Because when we first had kids, when Roby first came home, I was like, I need to find the school that looks just like the school that I grew up in. And so that's what we did. And in my mind, he would be there from kindergarten till 12th grade. He would experience all the things that I did. But that's not, again, that comes back to, we can commit our plans to the Lord. Or we can make plans, but we commit them to the Lord, and He directs and orders our steps. Right. And so for me, him going from private school to homeschool was a spiritual journey too, like in my walk with the Lord, of saying, okay, I'm not in control. You know what's best. You know what's best for him, what's best for our family. And so that's how we ended up there. And then JoJo, our youngest, he did kindergarten and first grade and private school just to get a good foundation. And then last year was his first year at CC, and he loved it.
And JoJo and Noah are best buddies. So they are just two peas in a pod.
Yes, it is fun to watch them together for sure.
Their personalities are so similar. So I can go to Shannon and be like, oh my goodness, let me tell you what Noah did.
No judgment.
And she's like, I've got a JoJo. I get it.
I'm not trying to one up you, but I think they're the same child. So,
for sure. Yes.
So.
It's so good having those other moms to lean on with similar experiences and raising similar personality types.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, one thing I do want to kind of come back to is if we did not have the friend who came to us and said, hey, would you consider this? We never would have. And so I think it's a good reminder to homeschool parents that there are other parents out there who it might not be something they're thinking about. But you're the one that could help encourage them that it can be done.
That is such a good point. Yeah, we've got to share our journeys and the positives of our journeys because you never know where someone might be in what they're thinking about, what they're considering, what stage of life they're in. And so you just set me up perfectly for a shameless plug. So if you're thinking, I want to share about homeschooling, do it right now. Stop and share this podcast. Follow it, subscribe, like it, all of the interaction, because that gets it visible to a lot more people. And my hope, my desire is not so that it can blow up and be this big famous thing. It's so that I can get the maximum amount of encouragement out there to moms and dads and families who are thinking about it or who are in the middle of it. That's the heart. So share it. I would so appreciate that. So you could have actually, when I first considered interviewing you, I was like, what am I going to talk to her about? Because there are so many different things that you could speak well to. So obviously we talked about you're an attorney, so you're working outside the home. I had Shannon, I had Sarah on in a previous episode talking about working outside the home. She's a lot more full-time, or has been in the past, than I am. I do just a very little bit outside the home, but you're very full-time. So would you just for a second tell us what that looks like in your household, how that works?
So let me start with, I get asked that question a lot. And it kind of goes more along the lines of like, how do you do it all?
Yes.
And I have just come to realize, and this was before homeschooling, because there can be this mom guilt that you feel for not being at home. And so I came to terms with that a long time ago. And I don't want to say I came to terms with it. I accepted it and thought, it's not guilt. It's good. You know, we can make it work, and the Lord can use you in lots of different ways. But I am a firm believer in that I cannot balance everything. Okay. So there's seasons where, you know, family life is really heavy and takes more of the time, or it might shift with work where things are fine at home. And so I'm needed more at work. And then the other thing that I've, in the last couple of years, been very kind of conscious about doing is rest. So every week we have what I would call a Sabbath day. It might be a Saturday, it might be Friday, it might be Monday. It just depends on what it looks like. And a Sabbath day doesn't mean that you sit at home and do nothing, because, you know, it might be on a Saturday and we have a soccer game in the middle of the day. But it's intentional rest, you know, time together as a family, time alone with the Lord that it looks a little different than the rest of the week. So I've just really kind of put those boundaries in our family.
You've been a great example to me in that. Like, I feel like I have taken a lot of that from you because you've done it really well. I know that that's something that's been really important to you, that God's really placed on your heart the last couple of years. And I've seen you just jump right in.
Well, also not just weekly, but also carving out longer periods of rest is very important to kind of get a reset, you know, whether it's a vacation somewhere or staying at home, whatever that looks like, but just really intentional. And so I've tried to do that to help with the idea of balance, again, being okay with things shifting and changing.
And you do a good job being present when you're in those moments, because I know there have been times when you've been away and I have like texted you about something you're not going to respond. And I love that. Like, that's how it should be. It's like, I'm unavailable right now. I've got to guard and protect this time.
Yeah. I also think saying no to things is okay. And I've come to terms with that too. So those are things that I would say have helped me with the working and homeschooling, being at home.
Lisa Turkhurst, she does such a great job talking about boundaries. And even like recently, oh, you're good.
It's my mom.
Boundaries, Mom. We're in the middle of recording. But I have taken this from her and I've used it myself. I love it so much. She said, when I need to say no to something, my response will typically be, my heart is saying yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, that's
But the
good.
reality of my time is that I'm not able to.
Yeah,
and I
that's
love
good.
that so much because it doesn't have to be harsh.
Yeah.
It's not just a harsh no. It's a, hey, I need you to know that my heart would love to do this, but I'm not able to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a reason that the Lord instructs us in everything in Scripture, you know, and so I just was really convicted years ago about having a Sabbath rest. And then it changed me physically where I could get through not just get through, but do well in the things that I'm doing the remainder of the week. So there's that.
I love that. And I love how you talked about that, going back to when you mentioned having that guilty feeling for not being at home. Because when you said that, it so resonated, because that guilty feeling we know is from the enemy.
Yeah.
But you are going to have that feeling regardless. Like, he's going to place that on you. And if it's not because you're working outside the home, it's going to be something else. It's going to be like, well, you were home all day, but you yelled at your kids 4 times. Like, he's so good at getting in there and picking you apart.
It's like, it is true. It's like he knows our weakness and then he just latches on. And I think the Lord has really worked in me in, you know, recognizing those weaknesses and then finding scripture or talking to him about those weaknesses so that I can be strong. And when the enemy comes, you're ready for battle. So, and I mean, I feel like it, you know, back in the day, I would say, well, you know, that comes across as cocky or confident, but it is confidence in the Lord, in his strength and his help, and helping me through. But so I am a practicing attorney, have been this year is actually 20 years.
Wow.
So
congratulations.
yes,
That's a huge milestone.
No, I know.
That's amazing.
And one of the things that I've said since it is the 20th year is that I need to
Productive.
No. So that I would say learning to rest has helped me to do all the things. And so like I said, I've been practicing for 20 years and I actually really enjoy it. You know, I mean, doesn't define who I am, but I feel like the Lord's given me joy in it in this season, and which that helps me with all things. You know, if the Lord is helping you in whatever it is that he's called you to do, which he will, but I think the trick is making sure that we're doing what he's called us to do. So, because if we're outside of that, it's hard to find joy in it. And so I've realized, you know, I enjoy it. I'm good at it. And I think for the boys, I like them seeing me do hard things.
I do too.
I feel like that teaches them you can do hard things.
And I like them. I've talked about this in the past. I like our children seeing us pursue things that are an interest to us. We are people. Like, yes, I'm your mom. Yes, I'm your teacher, but there's more to me than that. Like, I like to paint. I like to, you know, all of these things. It's like God has made me my own person, and I want you to see mom and dad pursuing things that are of interest. I think that's good for them. It's like, I love you, but our world does not revolve around you.
So, I mean, it's been a good journey. You know, my husband and I we work really well together on balancing it. Plus, I feel like, you know, we are, let me think, 4 years into homeschooling.
Okay.
And in the beginning, I would have said, this is what we have to do. You know, we start out on Monday, we go to CC, and then on Tuesday we get up at 8 and do, you know, a very routine and scheduled. Yes. But I've grown over time. The Lord has worked on me with that.
It's a hard let go, though.
Yes,
it really is.
It is. And I remember when we first started, you know, talking to other moms about how they do their days. And, you know, I would hear a lot, we may not get to everything, and you don't have to do everything.
Did you like seize up inside? You're
I was like, I'm not sure we can do that.
Yes.
But, you know, I also have recognized the beauty of homeschool opportunities.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is there are experiences that the boys get to have because we might go somewhere, even on vacation. You know, we'll try to find places that it's teaching them.
Yes.
And I don't really remember my vacations as a kid that way, where, you know, I'm on vacation with my parents, and my parents are wonderful, okay? So I'm not saying this, but I find that we make everything intentional.
Yeah.
You know, we make everything a learning moment. I can remember a friend talking about how, you know, she might have her kids bake something during the day.
Yeah.
And as a part of that, they're learning math because they're talking about measurements. And then they're learning other skills along the way. So it's been very good as a parent to be more intentional about all the activities.
You're looking for those moments.
Yes.
And I can't believe how many times when we're just out and about and we'll see a sign or hear an ad, even and it'll like trigger a memory song and everybody will start singing it.
Yeah. Coming to that, so a couple of years ago, we took the boys to Hawaii for the first time. And one of the days we were on a boat, we were going to go snorkel, and they took us to this island, and the guide was talking over the loudspeaker about the location and the importance and, you know, the history behind it. And it was where Captain Cook died, climbing up the side, and he was attacked and died. And I hear Roby singing the timeline song. And he was telling everyone, do you know who Captain Cook is? And so that was a moment for me where that was where it changed, where I was like, well, vacations can be a learning experience.
100%.
I'm not saying we log it as hours, but we're using it as an opportunity to teach them everywhere they go, which I think that opens up a kid's curiosity.
Oh, for sure.
So like every moment is something, they see it as a learning experience.
Yes, they are becoming lifelong learners. We're teaching them how to do that.
Yeah.
And they're tying all of their experiences back to God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Shannon, you were talking about like, hey, we're not going to log all these hours while we're on vacation. And that is such a great segue into actually what we're going to talk about next time, which is more of the legal side of homeschooling. Maybe you've had some questions about that. So this is just a part 1. Make sure that you tune in next week for part 2. Shannon and I are going to get into the nitty gritty of homeschool laws, and we'll see you then. Until then, happy learning. This episode of Follow the Leader Homeschool Education is brought to you by Command Family Medicine. Command Family Medicine is part of a cutting-edge movement called Direct Primary Care. They deal directly with their patients to help individuals and families take command of their health through increased access and affordable and transparent cost of care. With locations in Springfield and Branson, Command is serving the Ozarks. It is also brought to you by Nathan Keene with Alpha Realty. Nathan is excited to help you find your perfect home. He'll make the real estate process fun, stress-free, and focused on your goals. Whether you're buying or selling, he will guide you every step of the way. He will work to make your dreams a reality. You can find links to Nathan Keene Realty and Command Family Medicine in the show notes.